Today I'm here with my sweet son Ben, who's visiting us for the holidays, and I thought I would take a little time to share him with you so that he could share some of his thoughts about traditional foods, about homeschooling, and about how all of these things have affected him in his life now that he's a grown man. Hi, sweet friends. I'm Mary, and this is my sweet son Ben.
Hi, sweet friends.
And welcome to Mary's Nest, where we teach traditional cooking skills for making nutrient-dense foods like bone broth, ferment, sourdough,
and more.
So if you enjoy learning how to be a modern pioneer in the kitchen, consider subscribing to my channel. And don't forget to click on the little notification bell below. That'll let you know every time I upload a new video. Well, today Ben and I have been in the kitchen because we're making old-fashioned cinnamon graham crackers. And while our dough is chilling, I thought we would take a little time and chit-chat with Ben, since I realized the last video I made with him, where we took time out to talk about his life and traditional foods and homeschooling and so on and so forth, was actually made in December of 2020. And now we're December 2023. Ben is 25 years old. And I thought it would be fun for you to hear his perspective on how these things have affected him throughout his life now that he's a grown man. Well, I know you've shared a lot with me about life in your apartment and with your friends and how you've been doing some cooking and whatnot. And I think that people would really enjoy hearing some of the things that you do and how you kind of encourage your friends.
Oh, yes,
also,
yes.
Ben lives in an apartment and they have a pool. And we live in Central Texas. The weather's pretty mild most of the year. And how the different things that you barbecue and experiment with, and how you encourage your friends to try new and different foods.
Oh, indeed. I know that ever since I was young, I mean, Mom was always had something new to try out, whether it was just mysterious nuggets that turned out to be liver. It's good for you. I enjoy a lot of those things, and traditional food skills I've actually found to be quite helpful and important. I mean, ever since I was young, whether it was you just teaching me, I was the only little kindergarten to know, oh, that's a pomegranate.
That's right.
Or when we were homeschooling and maybe fifth grade or so, you'd have, a lot of the mothers over cooking, teaching them, making things for the kids, and we'd all be running about causing a ruckus. And it was a great time. But I would say as I've gotten older and living alone, it's easy to not follow the traditional foods path and to slip off the journey.
No, I can relate to that, because when I was a single girl, I'd be roasting a chicken and doing different things like that. But I often didn't have the same intensity I had once I got married to Dad and you were born. You kind of, when you're busy as a single person, you find like little shortcuts here and there. But I've been very impressed with the cooking that you've done, and how you call it. Ben is so sweet. He'll call us and he'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm cooking this, that, or the other thing."
Yes, cooking up a little steak or something like that. I know that I enjoy, as you had mentioned, barbecuing with my friends. Everyone will bring something representative of themselves. Of course, I bring like an octopus or something, something crazy. But I have always enjoyed one thing that maybe is a little silly about me, is I've enjoyed saying to people, oh, does that have partially hydrogenated vegetable oils or high fructose corn syrup in it? And of course, I'm not being mean or anything, but I do get a little kick out of encouraging people. And then also it's funny how for some reason a friend had like a bag of oats, or not oats, it was lentils. Lentils.
You tell me this.
They had no idea what it was or how to cook it. And I said, oh yeah, those are lentils. And they were like, what? And I said, oh, you got to soak them, right? Right? You got to soak them. Otherwise, it'll not be good for the digestion. And that was a time when I said, boy, those traditional food skills came in handy, because I looked like I had some grand knowledge, a little compared to the true master.
Oh, no,
but
you're terrific.
You've always taken a lot of time, and that's why I was very excited when you announced that you were releasing a curriculum for homeschooling, just because and everybody, but especially homeschoolers, I remember so many times the little tidbits of knowledge and educational things, asking where do krill oil come from, and all these different things. I enjoyed that as a kid, and I know that it was really a core part of our education, of you teaching me.
Yes, I, as many of you know, I am so passionate about keeping these traditional food skills, these traditional cooking skills alive. And if you've not had a chance to see that video yet, I created a curriculum and for grades K through 12 that corresponds with my cookbook, my new book, The Modern Pioneer Cookbook. It has 14 chapters, as my book has 14 chapters, and each chapter is divided into 3 lesson plans, K through 4th grade, then 5th through 8th grade, and then 9th through 12th grade. But they all work very well together if you're educating multiple age groups. And, Ben was homeschooled from grades 1 through 8, and so a lot of this is information that I developed while I was teaching him, but then to make the actual curriculum that is available to you for free. You can download it on my website. It's over 250 pages. There's no email required. And as I said, I'm very passionate about this, and I really want to get this information out there, and I want people teaching younger generations. And it's not just for homeschoolers. Ben, which he'll share with you, for 9th through 12th, he went to school outside the home. He went to a regular high school. And so he's got all of these experiences from being educated, grades 1 through 8 at home, and then at a regular high school, K through 12, 9 through 12. But we were always, developing your traditional food skills. And so anybody can use this, parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, people in the community who may be wanting to put together like a summer program to teach children how to make these traditional foods. This curriculum is available for anyone, no matter where your children are educated. And I think that you will find it incredibly helpful, because I wish I had something like this when I was going, Benjamin and I just kind of did things by the seat of our pants, when it came to things in the kitchen.
A lot of knowledge to share.
But in developing this curriculum, it's really top-notch, because I worked with a professional educator who is also a curriculum developer. So this is laid out beautifully, and every lesson plan it brings everything to life, because it brings in science and math and geography, history, culture. It brings it all to life. And I think that kids will really find that interesting, because I think that's something with you, and you can tell this better than me, but I think during our homeschooling adventures, we really worked on trying to bring things to life, to make them very real world.
Where'd this come from? Probably one of the first things I remember making with you is bone broth.
Yes.
You would cut it up, the carrots, the onions, the celery, and the rest of the stuff, and put it in little bowls for me so that I could dump it into the pot. And then sometimes some would get splashed on me, and I would say to you, "Oh, it's okay, Mother. Cooks get burnt." The dramatic, of course I was fine. I'm so dramatic, I always have been. But we'd have a lot of fun with that and stirring it. And then the fat that would get on top when it was chilled, I always thought was so fascinating. And those were a lot of the neat aspects of it.
And many the fat, especially on beef bone broth, you can get a pretty thick layer of tallow. And it is very, very smooth when it is refrigerated, because we would strain the bone broth, and then we would have the broth in the big stock pot and let it cool a little, and then we'd put it in the fridge overnight, and then the next day all that fat would float to the top. It was a very easy way of defatting it before I had my fat separator, which, if you've been with me for a while, I love that little gadget that I use now to remove the fat. But if you have children, this is a lot of fun, because this very thick layer of the tallow, now don't discard that, keep that and use it, for cooking and whatnot. But I remember that you would take maybe this is not the most sanitary thing in the world, but you would take your little figures.
I'm so sorry
no, it was so cute. No, I'm just telling, I'm not, always worried about these things, because I think it's wonderful, for kids to be in the kitchen and make it fun, bring it to life. And I thought it was so cute, because the fat was so thick. And you would have little adventure figures. Was it like Star Wars and stuff?
Action figure.
Like they were on some planet.
That's probably not the cleanest thing in the world, but
it's okay,
And then of course poking holes in it with a fork or something. I mean, there's few things better than that. That's a great time.
And you would remove the chunks and. That we had a lot of fun doing that. But it's good, to have kids in the kitchen and not be, really afraid of these things. I think initially, your exposure to chicken feet? What was,
I mean,
when you looked in the
it was
freezer?
Area 51. I didn't know that Mom had got the aliens and taken their feet. I mean, it looks like
They
a
really do.
talon
They
of
really
some
do.
creature,
Yeah.
but
And what I thought was so cute, I don't know if you remember this, but I don't know if, oh, you were putting something in the freezer. Ben used to make all these
God
like,
bless. Yeah,
these
yeah.
little, I don't know, like
I'd take food coloring, water, put it
and
in
water.
a bag, and think I was some alchemist.
And then maybe you'd put like a little Micro Machine character in there
Yeah.
and like freeze him, whatever. Or what was it? What is the thing like in Star Wars? Yeah, not Luke Skywalker, but the other one, Han Solo, is like
carbonite.
Yeah, I couldn't think of it. And Benjamin would put the little character, and then he'd put it in a plastic bag, and then he would be opening. We have a little second refrigerator in our laundry room, and so he would be in and out of that freezer all the time with his little concoctions that he would be making. But I encourage this, and I think this is good because he just was comfortable working in the kitchen with the refrigerator, the freezer, the pantry. He was very comfortable going into the pantry and getting out different spices and whatnot. But it was so cute because you were a little guy and you saw those frozen in a package
I remember
in my freezer. And it was kind of cute because I think you went and whispered to Dad. I can't remember if it was or some of your friends were over. I can't 100%
I remember
remember.
showing some other kids.
Oh, I think it was other kids.
Everybody being just blown away.
Yeah, and I remember you like whispering, going, "Oh my gosh, there's aliens in the freezer." It's when you guys were real
I was
little,
pretty young,
but you
yeah.
were real little, and it was so cute, And then I was like, "Oh no, they're chicken feet." But then you got very comfortable working with chicken feet,
making the bone broth,
making the bone broth,
kind of
and adding
things.
them in. So we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun
good
with
memories
that.
doing
Yeah.
those kind of things.
But that's kind of something that I think we really enjoyed. And I will say that homeschooling, like when you hit 5th grade, then we band together with a couple of other moms, and we actually hired a retired teacher who handled the math and science, because it gets a little harder 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I think today a lot of parents call them pods. But it was just like a little homeschooling, like we used to call them co-ops. And so we did that for like 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. But we would do it here in my house, since I in my kitchen. It was funny,
Yeah, right
it just
over there,
right
behind the camera.
Yeah, the kitchen table. And we had, 5, 6, 7 kids. I can't remember exactly. And she would teach and whatnot. But I think that
and just to give you some credit, you organized all of these groups,
You're
made
kind.
everything happen. But please continue.
Oh, no, what I was going to say was that I think that in those early years, we had a lot of play groups and all of that. But in the early years and you were, Benjamin was going for the reading therapy and struggling with that, he's really been through a lot. And if you've not seen the video that we made a couple of years ago, he really goes into a lot of detail and talks a lot about dyslexia. And so if you have any children that are struggling with that, I think they'll find that video very fascinating. And Benjamin, as he shares in the video, he also has dysgraphia, which is like a little struggle with writing, and dyscalculia, the struggles with math. And so I think that video can really help and inspire your children. He's had his struggles, but I think that he can be inspirational to younger children. And I know that you've talked to younger children.
I have. I've given some
about
talks,
this. He's given talks
at dyslexic schools and at other schools, just talking about how, it can be tough. But dyslexics also do a lot better when they have that tactile things to work with.
Yeah.
Like Dad and I would go on walks as we would review material, and you and I in the kitchen doing those kind of things to make sure that you were doing something with your hands as well as learning
and talking,
which makes
right.
it easier for a person overall.
And I also think something that whether you're homeschooling or whether your children go to, or your grandchildren, whoever, your nieces and nephews, no matter where they go to school, whether in the home or outside the home, there's something I think about like working together in the kitchen, working together in the garden, or working like in woodworking and things like that, maybe in the garage. with a father or an uncle, whatever it is that you're doing and working with the child, I have found that, and people will also often comment on this, Ben and I have an exceptionally close relationship.
yes.
And I think that a lot of that was born when you were little
Oh, yeah.
in the kitchen with me, because you start doing things, and even, yes, it's when you're very little, of course, then it's the little things that very young children talk about, but when you got older, I think being able to be in the kitchen with me and feeling very comfortable to talk to me about whatever struggles you had and whatnot, and that allowed us, I think, to develop a close
Yes.
bond.
No, I completely agree. I think that it's very important to be. And I remember too, when we'd eat dinner and things like that, we always were talking as a family. And to this day, I think that, especially when I was younger, I had a good vocabulary, was able to talk.
You did.
And having severe dyslexia, I really rely on my ability to speak and my ability to talk. And because that's kind of the one skill that I got. But I definitely think that the relationship with the family, you and me, and being able to really talk about things, work through things together, and having things almost not outside of school, but school adjacent, like cooking, that I could be good at or learn, and it was easier for me. That was definitely good for me growing up. Developed my social skills, developed my cooking skills, and made us very close as a family. Because
Yes.
family's all we got at the
Yes,
end of the day.
it's all about family. And there's something you mentioned about you and Dad going on the walks. And I think just like you built a close relationship with me in the kitchen, you built a very close relationship with Dad when Dad would take you and walk with you and go over all of the lessons that you were learning. Was primarily science,
Primarily science and
history. And
when did this happen? What's a covalent bond?
Yeah, and it's so beautiful to see. I think many of you have been with me for a while. My husband is Ted, and we're actually celebrating 26 years of marriage in a few days, which is beautiful. And we have a very interesting story about how we met and whatnot. I'll be sure to link to that below. But what is so beautiful is that Ted and Ben also have a very close relationship. And they developed that because my husband he made himself so available. He was always there to listen to Ben's trials and tribulations, to walk with him, so that, there was, I think, and especially with boys, the moving and walking around the block and around the neighborhood, going over the science, going over the history, and two subjects that you're really knowledgeable about today.
I enjoy them, and Dad definitely helped with that.
And I just think it's adorable when Ted and Ben are together and they talk about history way over my head.
Oh, no.
No, it's what they know about history is amazing. And both American history as well as world history and ancient history. And I learned so much from just listening to them. I love seeing the conversations that they have. And they're both really good at board games.
It's a good time.
And I'm not talking Monopoly. I'm talking really complicated, very detailed board games. And I just love watching them play and get excited about it and talk about it together.
And you usually end up winning.
No, I don't. You know why?
The grand strategy that decimates us.
This is the strategy of why I may be winning. These games are so complicated for me, and so I'll look at each of them and I'll say, okay, what should I do now? What should I do now? And so they're basically playing for me. But it's really lovely to see, when you can recognize something that your child enjoys, and if it's something that you enjoy and that you can impart to them, that's great. And if there are things that interest them that maybe you don't necessarily know about, but taking an interest, when you would bring different things to us and say, oh, I like this, I want to learn about this. Dad was great about that.
Well, both you guys were. You guys made yourself so available for me, and that was very kind. And so above and beyond, getting me the reading tutors, being there and being available, whether it was, oh, hey, Mom, I like this girl, what should I do? Or, more just, it was a tough day, or these kind of things. Or, oh, reading therapy was tough today. Well, hey, Ben, I could use a hand roast and a chicken. Let's talk about it. So that is one good thing.
Yeah.
One skill that I really have down is how do we roast that chicken. I made sure I had that before I went to college. And who wants the giblets? So,
That's funny. Yeah, I'd always say to them, just learn how to roast a chicken. You'll never go hungry. But yeah, I think it's really, Dad was terrific taking you when you would express interest in different things, and Dad would take you all around, and you had your little boys' day out.
Oh, yes,
that
boys'
was
day
so
out.
cute. And you'd be in the back seat. And this is even
Yeah,
going back
yeah.
to when you were still in the car seat.
yeah.
And you would have your boys' day out. It was very cute. But it was a very interesting journey because you had a lot of struggles. But the way you persevered,
Oh, you're very
your
kind.
tenacity, I highly recommend that you watch that video from 3 years back when Ben was in college, and he was talking about the transition from high school to college and what exactly transpired and the differences between homeschooling and then going into a brick and mortar high school. And something I have to share because I just think it's so cute about you going to high school, and then the transition to college. And it's been quite a ride. And I find that it was very cute when Benjamin was in 9th grade and he was like, I don't know exactly where you sat, if it were like in the front or what, but Benjamin was like really sitting and paying attention. And he didn't have a cell phone, God bless him. He had wanted one, and I said, no, you're not going to high school with a cell phone. And I went to remember the lady, she had the little kiosk office? I don't know if you remember. And I took you over there and I said, if he ever needs to call me, can he use the school phone? And she was like, sure. And so God bless him, he didn't have a cell phone, and he was in 9th grade. And I think a lot of kids had the cell phone. And I don't think they didn't have the same way they made today with policies that the kids have to put them away or whatever. I think the teacher just tried to do the best she could. And Benjamin was sitting there, he had no cell phone, so there was nothing to do but pay attention. And every time she'd ask a question, he'd raise his hand and he'd answer the question. And he was very knowledgeable. He had already developed quite a detailed, in specifically in your history class, and the science teacher loved you too. And he had already developed this very detailed knowledge of history, world history, working with my husband. And it was adorable because halfway through the class, because the teacher told me at the parent-teacher conference that halfway through the class, she finally stopped the class because he kept raising his hand. And she said, where did you go to middle school? And he said, oh, I was homeschooled, and I am just so thrilled to be here. Because he was so happy. He's always been very outgoing. And although we had these little co-ops, it was like 10 kids or less maybe. And now he's like in this big high school in the class of 30 kids or whatever. And she got so tickled by that. And she had said to us in the parent-teacher meeting, he's so enthusiastic.
Well, I really thought high school was, this magical place that I'd go to where everybody just treated each other with love and respect, and it would just be some great time. Maybe it wasn't exactly that, but I was happy to be there. I've always been very outgoing.
This was like the first week.
Oh, yeah.
So you can be honest about what you thought about high school after that.
Yeah, not as good. Not as good as our good old adventures.
That first week.
Homeschooling was, I think I learned a good bit more with you and Dad than, in school, but I enjoyed both.
Yeah, what advice if you got folks watching this and they have teenagers who are in high school and I think for the most part, 90% of kids, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I think most of us, because Dad and I have shared our stories with you, high school is not always the best time in the world. But what would you say that helped get you through or whatever?
Well,
what you did in terms of finding a social circle, that first.
Yeah, how I found a social circle. Well, I guess first and foremost, the advice I'd give to young people going into high school is it ends eventually. So, it's not forever. When it comes to getting a social circle, in my extreme extrovertedness, perhaps too extroverted, I just went to a group of kids that were all sitting alone, and I said, all right, we're all friends now. Let's sit and have our meal together. So
And you pulled a group
I
together.
just pulled a group together whether they wanted to or not.
Yeah.
So
And you stayed friends through
Yeah,
senior
yeah.
year.
It was a good time.
And still know what they've all moved to different parts of the country more or less now.
Stay in
but
touch.
you all stayed in touch, and that I thought was so cute when Benjamin got in the car. This is like now, like he's been in high school for a while, and I'm like, how's it going? And he's like, well, I just went into the lunchroom today. I found every kid who didn't have anybody to sit with, and I said, come on, we're all sitting together. We're a group now.
yeah.
And everybody, is something I did think that was very cute, if I can share with folks
please,
about you
please.
getting your driver's license.
Oh boy, I'm scared. What is the
No,
story?
but you didn't get it until, was it like the day before you went to college or something? It was very close.
Oh no, I think I had
Did you?
I'm not sure.
But it was later on.
Yeah.
And you didn't get it at 16.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and then there were you had a social circle. It was 3 boys and 2 girls. For the most part.
Yeah.
There might have been extra kids here and there, but for the most part it was these 3
The core
fellas,
members.
the core members, 3 fellas and 2 very nice girls. And the girls were, if I could say, they were very sophisticated.
Oh yes. yes.
They were very sophisticated, they dressed very nice. And the one girl, her parents had purchased her a lovely car. And she was a good driver. And she had her driver's license, I guess, at 16.
Early, yeah.
And so it was so funny because she was like the designated driver, so to none of them are drinking. That's the term often with people who are drinking. But
She was the only one who knew how.
She was the one who knew how to drive, and she had a car, a nice car, like some kind of sedan. And she would drive all the boys and the other girl to their various activities. And it was so cute because I don't think the other boys they all got their
Yeah.
driver's license later too. And one day, I think I said to you all, when are you boys going to get your driver's license? And they were like, we get driven around in a really nice car by a pretty girl. We're not in any rush. I thought that was such a cute story.
yeah.
I thought that was very cute. But it's, I think you managed the waters. You formed a club that a lot of people really liked joining in, all about current events.
It's the Current Events
Club. That
It's
was
me
very popular.
Ranting about current events for 30 minutes every Friday, but people seem to enjoy it.
And Dad would bring snacks
Oh, yes.
that everybody loved having. And that was a way, so you kept yourself, busy with the type of things that you enjoyed doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like you participated in some different activities where something that Benjamin won't tell you, but I will share, that he would go down with a group from his school to do breakfast for the homeless, and he was in charge of serving the coffee.
Oh, yes.
And he did a lot of lovely projects like that. And I think that that was a way to kind of keep
Make
busy
friends,
and make
meet
friends and
people.
survive high school. And
have things that I was good at.
we're good at.
I think that's very good for people with dyslexia, to have things, whether it's a subject in school or things outside of school, that they're good at and can take pride in.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, history, science, taekwondo, those kind of things.
Yeah, and always, and you were always a uniter.
Oh,
I
you're
think
very
because
kind.
of his extrovert nature, he was very good about bringing people together and chit-chatting and so on and so forth, and just having a lot of fun together.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was excellent. But what did you enjoy about with making the transition to living on your own, having an apartment, and doing different types of cooking? Initially, how did you find that? Did you find it was kind of sometimes a little easier to maybe get something from the Vietnamese restaurant?
Oh, yes,
down?
yes. At the bottom of
Yeah.
my building, there's a Vietnamese restaurant that I've frequented a little too much. But I definitely have to say, as I have gotten older and been cooking more, I definitely enjoy it. And there's a certain aspect to it where it's like you're creating something.
Mm-hmm.
You're building something new, and it's a lot of fun. And then making sure to use, you send me a nice butter, make sure that I'm using the proper butter with those nutritious fats.
Yeah.
And making sure to cook with those kind of things. I enjoy that.
And
It's been good.
something that is music to a mother's ear. But what I love is Benjamin will always say, "Oh, I always like to have a lot of vegetables." I mean, what mother doesn't love hearing that?
Oh yes, I've been a vegetable guy.
And you'll
I'll take a head of lettuce and I'll walk around. It's a little weird, and I'll just eat the head of lettuce. I enjoy that, but a lot of great vegetables.
And I love when you say that you're like cooking up a bunch of different vegetables with
like
a
a little
steak or
stir-fry,
something.
yeah.
This holiday season, give the gift of stories and recipes with my new book, The Modern Pioneer Cookbook, available everywhere books are sold. And something I'm so impressed with is the way that you tell me you're cooking fish. I mean, fish is not easy for a lot of people.
It's a little complicated.
But the fact that you're trying your hand at this and you're enjoying it and that you like to buy that, that's wonderful.
I know growing up, you'd always make a lot of fish, salmon, other things, delicious fish stew.
Oh, thank you.
And I know that I'd get some fish fillets and cook them up. And sometimes I'd be eating and I'd say, wait a second. This is raw. So it doesn't always go perfectly, but I've gotten it a little bit better. When it turns white,
Yeah.
you put a little lemon, a little butter, some seasoning, and then it usually works out well, and I have a good fish dinner.
Yes,
Occasionally, if I wasn't paying 100% attention, then it's a bit of a surprise. Like, why is this still cold in the center? But usually
Oh, I've
it works
experienced it too. Learning how to cook fish is always challenging.
out. But hey, you gave me a good
Aw,
repertoire. I love you.
Sweetheart. Well, I hope you've enjoyed hearing a little bit more from Ben, and I hope that you'll catch that video that we mentioned earlier. It's a little older, but I think that it'll be very interesting to any of you who may have dyslexia or other learning differences, and whether young or old. I think that what Ben shares in that video is very inspirational. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this, and it's been an absolute delight for me spending time with you in the kitchen and chit-chatting.
Bye, sweet friend.
And if you want to see that video, be sure to click on this link over here, where I have a playlist not only with that video where we chit-chat, but some other videos with Ben, working in the garden and a couple of other ones. And we'll see you over there in our Texas Hill Country Kitchen. Love and God bless.